I'm Joan Marshall, Director of the Bryan Museum, and I want to welcome you to the grounds of the museum today for a tour of the Lost Bird Project Sculpture Exhibition by Todd McGrain. The exhibition comprises 5 large-scale bronzes of birds that have gone extinct in the modern era, and the exhibition is part art, part natural history, and part tribute to what we've lost in the environment. And before I start the tour, however, I wanted to thank our partners at the Galveston Island Nature and Tourism and Houston Audubon for having made this exhibition possible, for bringing it to Galveston, and for sharing it with all Texans. So I wanted to start here with the first in the series, the great auk. Now, isn't this a strange-looking bird? I mean, where are the wings? This actually is a flightless seabird that stood about 30 inches tall, weighed 10 pounds, had a very small head, and unusual beak and these webbed feet. It was swift and agile, almost invincible in the water, but on land it was awkward and really defenseless. And it nested on rocky outcroppings and islands in the sea, from the northern coast of the U.S. up through Canada, across to Greenland and Iceland. But it was a very vulnerable bird because of the long nesting season required. And for thousands of years, native peoples used it as a primary food source. And in fact, you find the bones of great auks in a lot of ancient burial sites. And then when the European explorers came to the New World around 1500s, they too used the bird as a major food source. And it's at that point that you really see the populations start declining. But it wasn't until the 1700s when the European market for its down feathers really exploded, and that sealed the deal for the auk. And the last pair of great auks were hunted on an island off of Iceland in 1844. So take a short stroll across the garden with me to the Carolina parakeet. So this is the Carolina parakeet, the only native parrot to North America. And actually, if I had to choose a favorite in the series, it would be this bird here. It just looks like a bird you'd want to watch all afternoon. It's curious, gregarious. Look how it has its head cocked to the side. The parakeet was also sometimes called a winged jewel because it was brightly colored, emerald green on the body, yellow on its neck and head, and it had bright orange cheeks and forehead. And the powerful beak here was also an ivory color. So can you imagine seeing a flock of 100 or 1,000 of these birds flying overhead in tight formation and then diving down into the treetops and disappearing into the canopy? The parakeet ranged all over the southern United States, southeastern United States, and as far west as Nebraska and north to Wisconsin. And its primary diet were seeds, nuts, corn, and other grains. And of course that really was the problem, because as more and more cropland or forests were turned into cropland across the south, farmers started to see the parakeet as an agricultural pest. And they did everything in their power to destroy the population, from hunting it, from netting it, from trapping it. But frankly, the farmers weren't the only thing the parakeet had to worry about. It was also the feather hunters. And in the late 19th century, what a Victorian woman wanted more than anything was a feathered hat. And there was a frenzy for feathers. Birds were destroyed at an alarming rate, not just the Carolina parakeet, who was prized for its bright plumage, but also the other egrets and grebes. And actually, it was this wanton destruction that finally led the federal government to pass legislation to protect wild birds. So this bird was largely extinct by the 1900s. I think the last bird died in captivity at the Cincinnati Zoo in around 1918. Well, this is the passenger pigeon, and look at its slender silhouette. It reminds me a lot of a dove, but actually it was bigger than a dove. And what's amazing about the passenger pigeon is that we think they numbered 3 to 5 billion when the Europeans first came to North America. I mean, that's an astounding number of birds. They made up somewhere between 25 and 40% of all the North American land birds at that time. But what happened is there were thousands of pigeon hunters, and in 1878, hunters in Michigan actually killed and shipped to market over 1 billion passenger pigeons. So you can see that in a matter of 50 years, this bird was driven to extinction. And by 1900, you couldn't find a passenger pigeon in the wild. And before that time, they had ranged all the way from Canada to the southern states. They migrated. And the name passenger comes from the French meaning passerby, and it refers to their migratory route. Well, this is the heath hen, which is a subspecies of the greater prairie chicken. And here we have an illustration, probably done in the 19th century. But what's interesting about this bird is it ranged from New England down to the mid-Atlantic. It lived along the coastal regions and scrubby barren lands, and it survived on nuts and berries and insects. But it was highly prized as a food source, and you could commonly find it on the table of colonial families. But by the 1870s, this bird had largely vanished, and there was only a small colony left on Martha's Vineyard. And the last surviving bird in that colony died in 1932. But what we remember most about the heath hen is the elaborate, frenetic mating ritual that went on every spring, with the males trying to attract the females. And the male would stamp the ground, it would strut, it would preen, it would puff up, it would fan its tail feathers, all for the benefit of finding a female. And in the middle of all of this activity, it would freeze, it would hold a pose and ask the female, look at me, and then it would start all over again. Well, the last heath hen to die was named Booming Ben, and he got his name because every night he would fly to the top of the tree and he would call out looking for other birds, looking for other heath hens, hoping he would find one, and no one ever responded. And he was the last of the species. Well, this is the Labrador duck, and here you can see a picture of it. It was a small, compact diving duck that migrated along the northern coast all the way south to the Chesapeake Bay. And you can see that it had a broad, flat bill that it used to scour the bottom of shallow rivers and waterways for shellfish. And actually, this duck was not highly hunted because it had an unpleasant taste. And so the problem that led to this bird's extinction was industrial pollution. And the waterways were no longer full of food sources, and it was the last of its kind was shot, I believe, in around 1900 in Elmira, New York. What I didn't say about the Lost Bird Project sculptures is that each one of these original sculptures has been placed in the location where the bird was last seen, as a tribute in an ongoing memorial, as a reminder, again, of what we've lost, and a reminder to all of us to be better stewards for the environment. Now, one of the reasons that we brought the Lost Bird Project exhibit to the Bryan Museum in March of this year was to coincide with the 6th large-scale exhibition that has been done in the series. And that project depicts the Eskimo curlew. And if you'll follow me over here, I'll show you this small version of the large-scale version that now is installed at the Galveston State Park. My gosh, this is such an elegant shorebird. I love this piece. And unfortunately, the Eskimo curlew was last seen on Galveston Island in the 60s. It migrated from South America across the Great Plains all the way up to Alaska, Canada, and the Arctic. Now, I hope you have a chance to see this installed at the state park. The park currently is closed, but it won't be closed forever. And of course, the grounds of the Bryan Museum are temporarily closed as well. But I hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope you come back to see the sculptures in person. They'll be on view through September of this year. And we have a wide range of programs planned, from lectures to films to artist projects over the course of the summer. So keep checking on the website to see what's happening next. And again, I want to thank Todd McGrain. I want to thank Galveston Island Nature and Tourism. You can go to their website to find the map to the Galveston State Park. And I also want to thank Houston Audubon. Hope to see you again soon.
We just received one question. It's asking if this is permanent collection at the museum, the sculptures.
The question was, are these sculptures permanently installed at the museum? And the answer is no. They're part of a traveling exhibition. This exhibition has been around the country. It's been shown at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., as well as Jackson Hole, Wyoming, National Wildlife Museum, and a few other sites. But it is up through September. Thank you.